the experience really showed me the potential of legal tech, and I'm really excited about no code and legal automation's potential in general to transform how we deliver the services and increase access to justice.
Great. Yeah, my name is Jeff Marple. I'm the Director of Innovation in our legal department at Liberty Mutual. I've worked at Liberty for 20 years now. It was 20 years this last March. Worked in the legal space for going on my 6th year now. And I have a responsibility to advance innovation at within the legal department. So I look around at emerging technologies, processes, business models that might have a home within the legal department, and then I look at what the needs of the legal department are and see if I can't find a match between those things. I also have a responsibility to advance a culture of innovation within the department and do that through a variety of different events, through writing, speaking, etc. Real happy to be here today. We're big fans of no-code automation and automation in general, and happy to talk to all of you.
Take it away, Johnny.
Great, thanks so much. And thank you again for being here. We hope to make this session as interesting as possible, and please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Just a brief overview of what we're discussing today. First, I'd like to give an introduction to no code. What is it really? And followed by an overview of Neota Logic, our company that provides a leading no code solution. And then Jeff will go over what no-code automation looks like in practice, and we'll end with some Q&A and discussions. So traditionally, the only way to create customized digital solutions is to hire software developers and ask them to code a solution from scratch, with the coding looking something like what you see on the screen here. This is both an expensive and a time-consuming process. It's costly to build a team of software developers, and the software development lifecycle will take months or even years. With digital solutions being such an integral part of everyday life, there must be an easier way, right? This is where no code comes in. So no code is essentially what its name says, a tool that enables a non-technical person to build their own digital solutions without having to write a single line of code. It's the latest evolution in software development. Building enterprise solutions can now be done through a visual interface like the one you see here. You simply drag and drop the components you need and link them together with some logic. The ability for everyone, not just software engineers, to become citizen developers will transform how we build digital apps. Gartner predicts that by 2023, over 50% of medium to large companies will have adopted no code or low code. And these platforms will be responsible for more than 65% of app development by 2024. So what are the advantages of no code over traditional software development? First, it's faster and cheaper to prototype and build an application. You can create a digital solution quickly with a visual interface and shorten the time to market. Second, who builds these applications is a lot more flexible. Lawyers in the legal ops team can build with minimal training, and this empowers the subject matter experts to actually develop the solutions. Third, the no-code applications are easy to maintain and update. Jeff will touch upon this later, but we work with a range of corporate teams with different folks doing the maintenance and updates. This could be members of the legal ops team, staff in the department who's actually using the app, or in-house lawyers. Now that we have had an intro to no code, I'd like to ask the poll question on how your companies are currently developing digital solutions. Colin, could you bring up the first survey question? Great, I hope everyone, actually this is the second one. Do we have the first one on software development. Yes, exactly. I hope everyone can see this on their screen. It should read, how's your organization currently building digital solutions? Please select all that apply. And we have software development, low code, no code, and none of the above. You can select more than one. Does it look like we're getting responses in, Colin?
So it's getting up. It's like, okay, we're gonna stop at the next round if someone else votes one more time. Okay, in voting. So we got a majority, and I'm gonna share the results.
Great, thanks so much.
Okay.
So it looks like we have a good mix with more in the software development, of course, the traditional environment, as well as a smattering of low code and low code. So yeah, that's encouraging. I'm glad that companies are already using these tools to build out their digital ecosystem. So now that we have an understanding of no code, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Neota Logic. We're a leading no-code platform that enables automation in three main areas: expertise, document, and process. As a global company, we have over 100 clients around the world, ranging from Fortune 500 companies and large law firms to universities and nonprofits. We have over 3,000 enterprise applications already deployed, and currently over 10,000 authors who are building on our platform. To give some examples of the three types of automation, let's start with expertise automation on the right here. Expertise automation is essentially delivering that web application where you're taking someone through a guided interview and then performing some reasoning on that information to produce output in the form of tailored guidance or a document. This could be advice to both internal stakeholders and clients, and it could range from anything dealing with compliance or conflict checks to HR departmental requests and risk assessment. This leads us to the second type of automation, document. As I mentioned, the end product of an expertise workflow or expertise automation could very well be a document itself. And a platform, a no-code platform like Neota, can automate documents of any kind, including Word and PDFs. Whether it's a contract, something simple like an NDA, an employment offer, to something more complex involving multiple parties and compliance agencies. A no-code platform can really simplify and standardize how documents are created. Third, we have process automation on the left. Essentially, process automation enables interaction among multiple parties to achieve an outcome, a solution of some sort. For example, when you are negotiating a contract, there's going to be processes for internal review, sharing with the counterparty, negotiation back and forth, and finally execution. A no-code platform allows you to streamline the work with both internal and external parties, and you can automate anything from an approval or review process for procurement and underwriting to legal and compliance. So we'd like to ask our second survey question here. Love to hear from the audience. In what areas is your organization automating or looking to do so out of these three? And again, you can select more than one.
So it looks like process is leading.
Great. Yes, exactly. That is what we see the heaviest client use as well. And it's an area that's definitely ripe for automation. Great. So we scroll down. Yep, we see about half are doing process automation, and a third document, and about 20% expertise. Great, thank you for that. So what underlies all of this on Neota's platform is what we call the Neota Data Manager. It's a no-code data layer that captures all of the data and manages kind of all the steps of the workflow, whether that's an interaction, a response that the user gave, or simply the system-generated data that it's created as you step through the application. All of this is stored automatically in SQL databases without needing to write any code. So you don't need to interface with database administrators or set up databases manually. And the platform takes care of all of that for you. This is particularly important for today's analytics teams, where they're reporting on metrics like how many, how often, how long, and this is definitely a big part of the no-code platform's advantages. So now I'd like to show you what actually building an application on a no-code platform looks like. This is Canvas, our web-based app, and as you see, let me play the video. Are we able to play the video, Colin? I don't see that option on the screen.
To share your screen, you have to go to screen sharing if you want to share and pull it up and play the video.
Oh, I see. This only shows the flat. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Great. Are you able to see the video?
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. So as you can see, this is a drag and drop interface. We have a start node at the very top here, and the subsequent boxes, the ask boxes, are a series of questions that we're asking the user with branching logic in between based on the answers that the user provides to determine the pathway through the app. This is generating an application that you can actually run after it's completed. Let's see. Is the application running on, is the video running on your screen, Colin? On mine, it seems stuck.
It's running now, Johnny.
Okay, great. And hopefully this gives you a sense of what it looks like building an application. And then let me go to the next slide. So now that we have built applications in Canvas, we can tie them together with this module, the workflow module. And this corresponds with the workflow or process automation we discussed earlier. As you can see, it's also a drag and drop interface. And the horizontal lanes represent different parties, with the top and bottom pool representing different two different entities, and then within the pools, different departments or colleagues within that company. The rectangles that you see are the applications we saw being built in Canvas, and they're connected by these gateway nodes in the diamonds and the circles, essentially either decision points or an email notification of some sort that streamlines all of the whole workflow and the whole process. So you can set, for example, certain conditions in order for an email to be triggered, or timing, for example. Say if someone doesn't respond in 3 days, please send them a reminder email. This visual interface makes it really easy to map out a process, and also really give a clear view of the entire workflow from start to finish.
Yep, it's pretty powerful stuff, Johnny. Just a quick question. There's a couple of questions coming in. Dan Rutherman, I'm seeing an app being built. Yes, you are, Dan. This is a workflow. Robert Taylor has a quick, I would imagine that you can use these tools to extract information you might not otherwise be able to capture to help you understand the work better. Can you speak to integrations and the need to deploy these tools as your organization?
Yeah, that's a perfect, thanks so much for the question. It's a great question. So as I mentioned, the Neota Data Manager captures all of the data that's both provided by the user and also tracked by the system. So what we've seen clients use the data that Neota provides is to track, for example, how long does a legal process take? For example, you submit a request, how many days is it being processed by each department in the chain, and are there bottlenecks? And as well as taking a look at usage and how often is something being used, and looking at different metrics based on what types of applications are being used more often, what types of documents are being generated, how many of these processes end up not going to the completion stage, for example. So definitely very helpful for companies to track how different processes are being used, and timing issues as well.
Quick question. Yeah, how long does it take to build these out and implement them?
That's also a great question. And I would have to say it really varies. The bulk of the time is actually spent on gathering requirements and really getting, as you can see here, for example, this top part, there are 3 departments. We have an analyst, a solicitor, and a lead senior associate. So it's getting the different parties to agree on the process. That takes the most amount of time. But the actual implementation can, depending on the complexity of the application, for example, like in Canvas, where you're just putting like one of these rectangular boxes with a series of simple questions, that could be done in minutes to hours. Whereas a workflow where you're connecting different applications together, that could be several days to a couple of weeks. Perhaps Jeff can speak to his experience building anything out.
Yeah, happy to. Also, Colin, I'm hearing that people aren't hearing you when you're speaking. Maybe some are and some aren't, but I just wanted to pass that along. So try to repeat the question. Colin's question was, how long does it take to sort of build these out and deploy them? The building of apps on a platform like this can be really quick. Usually the work, like almost any project, is in the preparation. So who are you building it for? Do they understand their process? Do they understand their requirements well? That's usually where we're spending the abundance of our time, is sort of the back and forth and trying to really get to the root of whatever it is that our client wants. Additionally, what comes along with that usually is some implementation challenges. If you deploying new technology into a process, most likely that process needs to change. So potentially you've got some, process change that has to occur there. And then also there's marketing and communication around the new application. So maybe their customers don't want to use something like this, or don't understand the value of it, or don't know where to go, or the users within the department don't necessarily want to change. So there can be some change management issues that go on. Thinking through all of those things, all the things that I just listed are the things that I feel like we spend most amount of our time on. The ability to build an app very quickly exists, though, and with this Canvas tool, we can build prototypes within a matter of, within a meeting sometimes, just to sort of get something back to the client to get them to react to it. And your mileage may vary depending on what type of app you're building, how complex it is, if it doesn't have outside web integrations, et cetera, et cetera. So, but if everything is ready to go, which it never is, in a couple of weeks maybe, we could maybe get something in and out. But again, it rarely is.
Great, thanks so much, Jeff.
Hey, I just wanted to, Colin, there was another question. My friend Julian was asking whether or not the deck was going to be shared afterwards. And Colin, you could speak to that.
We're going to share the deck afterwards and the recording.
All right. The deck and the recording will be shared afterwards. And then there was another one from Ryan. Do you come across hesitancy to share sensitive client data from law firms? Usually law firms are wary of giving control outside of the firm. I don't have experience with that. I can tell you that Liberty Mutual is hesitant to share customer data outside of Liberty Mutual. Johnny, do you have experience with that with the law firms?
Yeah, and actually my colleague Jack provided an answer in the chat. Essentially, yeah, we're able to process the data stored on external databases that are owned by the clients and overseen by themselves. So this typically addresses any security concerns that they have about sensitive or confidential information.
Great.
So we should be back to the presentation itself. Finally, one more aspect of the Neota engine that I want to touch upon is the powerful reasoning tools that are available. We've seen in the branching logic from the two previous slides, mostly focused on if-then types of decision trees, but we also have the ability to use calculations, formulas, even machine learning interface through third-party applications in order to drive the reasoning behind the expertise, the document and the workflow automation processes. So it can really be a very powerful platform on which to develop automation applications. And as one example and kind of a ideal that we're striving towards, we envision 24/7 digital advisor, essentially a portal where anyone can come in to request legal service, whether that's creating an NDA or assessing risk for a particular project, to generating employment contract and purchase order. This could be built through a no-code platform and serve as a portal and an interface for both companies' internal and external stakeholders. With that, I'll hand it over to Jeff to discuss what actually putting no-code development is like into practice.
Great, thanks, Johnny. Okay, no-code development. I work at Liberty Mutual. I work in the corporate legal department. I work on a team called the Legal Ideation and Transformation Team. Our team's responsible for innovation, which is one of the things that I work on, but then also we do a lot of improvement around home office legal and field legal. we have process and technology professionals that have a series of tools in their toolbox, go around and try to understand where there might be opportunities for improvement from an operations perspective, looking at workflows, document generation, expertise generation, handoffs, etc. Sometimes we're asked to come in by a group, or sometimes we are aware of an issue and go in to assist. These folks examine process and then develop requirements and applications around those different areas, sort of wholly combined, and sort of do soup to nuts, including a lot of the development of the applications. So requirements all the way through to testing, implementation, and deployment. We've learned a few things along the way. What are our objectives and approach here? We're always looking to standardize and streamline process. If you have a terrible process and you automate over the top of it, you're going to be automating a terrible process, and that's rarely a good thing. Sometimes we're asked for technology solutions, and we just go in and look at the process, and just by looking at the process, we can save some time and effort just by changing the process up a little bit. We're doing that in the name of efficiency. I work in Legal Strategic Services, which is a legal operations group. We are looking to be more efficient. We are looking to do things faster, with higher quality, and with more smiles on people's faces. We want to do that, but not. But we do not want to sacrifice our client or user experience at the same time. If anything, we actually want to improve it. So we want people to be happy with what we've left behind. We use an agile development system where instead of gathering a whole bunch of information, developing requirements, tossing it over the wall, waiting until something's built, the first 1.0 is built, and then we test it and deploy it and find out that's not right. We spend a lot of time doing joint development with technical people, but also a lot of time with the folks who would be the SMEs, or what you call the business, around these different applications. And then finally, we help them understand what kind of data they might want to gather through applications like this, to develop operational insight into what's going on in their department. Where are they spending their time? Where do they have opportunities for improvement? Where are they doing really, really well? Et cetera. Who are they serving? On and on the list goes. So what's the value prop there of no-code, of no-code platforms? Very easy to build and maintain and deploy. As you saw, it's essentially an app that builds apps. So we've abstracted, platforms like Neota have abstracted the development process out so that people without development training or experience can actually build applications, which is pretty remarkable. We want to scale expertise. We talk about, we have a term around Liberty we call demand management. So we're trying to manage the demand on the legal department. We're asked to do more and more with less and less, it seems. So if we can put expertise in a box and give that out to 100 people in a week, as opposed to one person answering all those questions, that allows that person to go and do different things, perhaps more important things, or at least more interesting things. So we love to be able to scale expertise. We want to automate those workflows and that work product through technology, faster, quicker. It doesn't go to sleep. It doesn't take days off. It's always available whenever they need it. And again, platforms like this sell, the sexiness is the automation and the of the workflows and the work product creation. But I can tell you that the managers of these groups very quickly fall in love with the data that can be collected from these different applications. And there was a question earlier about sensors. That's a great analogy. These sensors really allow you to understand what's going on. What's going on with your operation, and where you might need to change things around a little bit, or do something different, or build something new, or whatever it is, whatever those questions are that you need to answer. go to the next one here. Here's a handful of use cases that might be interesting to you. So in insurance, we generated a tremendous amount of disclaimers. These disclaimers are based on a series of different decision tree type questions. Do you need this disclaimer versus that, et cetera, et cetera? And can I drop in different variables within that document? And platforms like Neota are great platforms for that. We generate a variety of contracts, non-disclosure agreements, insurance agreements, marketing agreements, employment agreements, anything where if you have a decision tree, if you have a documented decision tree, then you can use a platform like this to automate that decision tree. It's fantastic for things like that, sort of areas where there's definitely a binary system, black and white answers to different questions. And even those that have a little bit of grayness at the end, there's ways to kick those out to different people at the end of those questions, so that maybe those can be handled by people, whereas 80% of the others can be automated. So there's that. And then I talked about our different lessons learned, and I see there's some questions coming in. I'll address those in just a minute. First off, when we first started, doing this type of work, we had to sort of sell what we were doing because it was new to our group. It's amazing how quickly that can change, and now we can't serve things up as fast as they're being asked for. So we needed to be able to prioritize one request over another. New applications being built and/or maintenance that needs to be built. So we look at a series of things around how we might prioritize the work that we're going to do. We look at not only what the expected ROI that whatever the app that we're looking to build might bring, but also how ready is the group that wants it to work on it. They may think they're ready, but maybe they aren't, or they know they're going to be ready in 6 months, but they're getting on the books now. That kind of thing. And then how ready are we? Is there any kind of special technology we need to bring on, or has this something we haven't done before, et cetera, et cetera. So we look at all of those things, and we actually score those and force rank our projects and our backlog. We learned about the need to look at process in conjunction with the technology. As I've said a few times, if you think you're going to deploy technology without changing your process, you're a little bit crazy. Because it's going to change. Conversely, if you change your process and you have technology, most likely your technology needs to adapt to that new process as well. And probably the biggest thing that we learned along the way is that we needed to have a dedicated team to this. This wasn't something that even while it's a no-code solution, if you have people that are trying to do multiple things, especially with the demand that we had, it just wasn't going to work out. So we have a product owner who looks over all of these different applications, and a dedicated team that builds those apps, and that's really allowed us to work on multiple fronts at the same time. We have folks going out to gather requirements. Meanwhile, we have other applications that are being built, or we have people that are testing, and we have other people going out and gathering requirements. So we sort of keep the wheel running. The other thing that I would encourage you to think about is if you're going to stick your toe in here, if you have one, maybe two apps, not a big deal. If you have multiple applications that are churning out what we call multiple widgets at a time, your risk for getting something wrong or for something not working correctly goes up. And if these applications are creating legal documentation, that can be a problem. So we have a quality assurance program where we are looking at these applications on a routine basis, prioritizing different bug fixes and/or feature requests, but also we're partnered with our business partners on this to make sure that they have some skin in the game. They're signing off on these applications working the way they should, and they're also taking a look at any of the regulations around whatever it is that we're building to make sure that nothing has changed outside of the application that might affect what we need to deliver. It's a big deal for us, and something to think about if you want to get serious about this. And then finally, the manager of these, the various managers of these different groups almost always want some sort of a dashboard or metrics report that comes out of whatever we've developed. I will tell you that most people's what they think they want at the beginning of the process is not what they want a year and a half later after deployment. Their ability to consume and understand the information that's generated by the application will change over time as they become more mature at ingesting those metrics. So what they're asking for from a metrics requirement out of the gate, and they may not even be thinking about it when you first start to talk to them, is going to be different. So I would encourage you to collect as much information as you possibly can, or as you're allowed to, up front. Collect it all if you can, because most likely at some point you're going to be asked to report on that, even if you aren't initially. And that dashboard may change over time. So I think we have some questions. Colin, you want me to just jump into them?
Pull up. Why don't we start high level? Robert came in on a question. Any insight you can provide around how you can show ROI to the organization when deploying these apps? I think that's for both of you.
Johnny, you want to start, or you want me to jump in there?
Yeah, I can start. I think one big area that our clients are looking into is the time saved. So they're looking at those repetitive tasks that are, whether it's processes, documents, or some sort of expertise requests that are very repetitive, and that there's only a few use cases or a few kind of potential outcomes. And they're measuring the amount of time that their staff is spending fielding these types of requests over an application that, once developed, can be used by anyone, anywhere without needing someone's time. So time save is definitely a big area. And then we're also seeing clients evaluate in favor of no-code when they are doing a lot of iterations. So instead of calling on the software development team to build out a robust application, they are using a no-code platform to quickly prototype, iterate, and really kind of quicken that time to market, so that they're able to test out ideas more cheaply and more efficiently.
Yeah, I would echo both of those things. So there's the capital cost, which is the second thing that you're sort of talking about, Johnny, which was like, how long does it take to build this? But then we take a look at a hard look at the per widget cost. How much is it costing you before, and how much is it costing you now? And most likely, if you're deploying automation for the first time in that space, you don't have great numbers around that. You're gonna have to rely on surveys, which may be heavily biased. So just know that information coming in, if you're asking the people how long it takes them to do it today, might be actually a little bit longer than it actually is. The other thing, but we look at different modifiers on top of that as well. So I keep talking about we're collecting data in an area that you may not have collected in. There's value there, so you have to decide what that value is to your organization. There may be not only an effort piece, but there may also be a duration. What's your cycle time? Are you delivering back to your client faster? Can you do more work in that same amount of time? And is the client happier? And then that's the other one, is client satisfaction. How happy are the clients with whatever it is you built? And finally, the other one that often gets overlooked is what's your employee satisfaction on this? Are they happier once this application has been deployed? So we look at our employee surveys to see if they're if this is trending in the right direction. All of those can contribute to how you might value an application that was built.
Perfect. Great answer, guys. Thank you. Another question from Mark Eveland. Can the workflow capabilities of Neota be integrated with other third-party tools for form building and business rules?
Yes, definitely. For Neota, essentially, we're able to interface with any application with a REST API. So some examples include natural language processing apps like Kira and Dandelion, CRM platforms like Salesforce and HubSpot, as well as document management systems like iManage and HiQ. we integrate with Microsoft suites like SharePoint and Teams as well. So, and I think there was actually a question or a part of the question I didn't address earlier, where the data can certainly be ported out to something like Tableau or Power BI in order to really analyze the data and invest in the analytics.
Yeah, echo everything Johnny said.
For the question, Mark, Ryan Kennedy, Jeff, this is for you. How do you choose between build your own and selecting existing tech to solve some of the demand management?
Oh, great question, Ryan. So that's a complicated question. If it's something that the organization doesn't necessarily have experience in, I'm more of a let's see what's out there first before we try to build it. If it doesn't exist, then obviously we need to build it. So that can flip the switch one way or the other. The other thing that we look at is integrations and what kind of integrations do we need. Johnny talked about the wealth of integrations that Neota has, and this is becoming an easier and easier question to answer as more and more things move to the cloud. However, not everything at Liberty Mutual lives in the cloud. We have a lot of, shall we say, not so young applications and data stores that don't necessarily live in the cloud. So in those cases, sometimes it's a little bit easier to maybe build something a little bit local as opposed to a web application, just because of the complications in building. But most of the times, if all things are equal, I'm looking to see what exists in the outside world before I go and try and build something, because most likely those folks have a head start on being good at building that because they've been in that business for a little bit longer.
Perfect. Great question. Great answer, Jeff. Thanks for the question, Ryan. So I want to address Philip's question before we jump on to the use cases and do put some more meat on the bones. Philip asks, is docx and PDF the only options for sending an NG automated documents to clients? What if you want to edit them first or access restrict the document?
So in the documents, you can set which portions an app or a user can provide input for. So you can definitely restrict that way. And we support a variety of documents, including Google Docs, spreadsheets, as well as having variables that can take in file types like images and so forth. So we definitely support more document types and are able to restrict access to documents to only the portions that you want to allow the app to edit.
So just to add to his question, so just to make it clear, so I kind of, if I'm building out a workflow like this, there's probably smart field. I'm imagine smart fields that relate back to a document. Once you route that document to somebody else, can it be edited in the workflow somewhere else?
Yes, depending on what restrictions you set, and depending on the restrictions that are permitted by that particular user class. And each user you can actually set the access level for as well. So it could differ from between different individuals across different teams.
Okay.
The other thing to think about there too is if you're allowing sort of manuscript edits that are occurring after the application has completed the creation of the document that goes out will no longer, potentially will no longer match the data that you've collected about it in the creation of that document. In other words, if I have a document that hasn't been edited after I create it, I can recreate that document at any time from the data that I've collected on it, and I have that information in my database, and it's database first, document second. As soon as that leaves and somebody edits it, I've gone from digital to analog, and I've lost that. So it's just sometimes you can't avoid that, but that's something we do try to look at when we're looking at those particular types of workflows. How important are those edits? Can those edits be incorporated in the workflow, and do you really need them? And if you do, that's fine, but just let's be clear about that.
Yeah, so this is a good point. It's probably a sticking point most companies have to deal with. Like let's address it like as low-hanging fruit NDAs, right? Every company's got to do them. They're high volume, low risk. So you want you want to really automate that process, push it out, let somebody else in your sales team probably be initiating the process. So what happens with Neota logic when these need to be, let's say 90% of them are just going to be pushed through? Do you have to move to a whole different system if you want to edit them, or can Neota work for something like this, the documents that do need to be edited and brought back into the fold? I'd imagine it's an API integration and a few other things to bring it back, but
yeah, and actually, I can show you a demo of an NDA app exactly where
let's hold off on the demo. Let's hold off on the demo for now. I think we should finish the use cases, and then if we have time at the end, we can address. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah, I guess to your question about like an NDA, usually those are, like you said, low hanging fruit, so it doesn't go through many edits back and forth, and then at the end, it's typically integrated with DocuSign so that all of it can be done online. And then the Neoda Data Manager keeps a copy of the executed PDF of the NDA that you can access through the Neoda Data Manager.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, that you take.
And then on top of that, it doesn't have to be a PDF that they extract. So if you need like a Word version of it, you can get that as well, and then somebody can just edit it and email it out of there. Then the endpoint becomes the legal professional within the company, as opposed to the client or the customer or whoever it is. So
it looks like a lot of questions are coming in, but I think we should finish the use cases and then leave some time for questions if possible.
Are there more use cases? Oh, okay. Yeah, Johnny's got more use cases.
Yeah, this was just in case we had extra time and also interest. Are there many more questions that we can help with, or would additional use cases be more helpful?
Share some use cases. It doesn't matter. We can just jump in for the questions. And maybe Robert Taylor has another question. Has Neota or Liberty licensed any of the applications that have been built, or they're proprietary to the organization that built them? Great question, Robert.
Yeah, maybe this could be a good segue into a couple of the use cases. This makes me think of the KPMG Business Visitor Assist. Essentially, this tool provides instant personalized assessment of the visa and tax implications for business travelers. The app simplifies the company's risk assessment and compliance by automating the data collection, the analysis, and the management. So KPMG initially built this for a specific client, and because it was so well received and used so often, that KPMG started selling a version to other clients as well.
That's great. Question from Dan Ealer. Jeff, have you seen any outside counsel firms use the platform to better communicate with your team? If so, can you give an example of how so?
So Dan, I haven't. That doesn't mean that it hasn't occurred. I know Neota has many law firm clients. We work with many law firms, so I suppose it's possible that it's happened, but I haven't necessarily heard about it.
Okay, question coming in from thank you, Dan. Question coming in from Joseph Gassman. Can the tool be leveraged to create a data collection application and evaluation to identify deficiencies, then trigger different responses based on the deficiencies? Probably to both of you.
Yeah, I don't see why I couldn't. So you could interrogate someone around something, right, to identify deficiencies. And then Neota has the ability to kick off different processes either within Neota itself or integrated with other applications. So it totally could do that, in my opinion. I mean, like just a simple contract application that's integrated with DocuSign, it evaluates whether or not that contract has been signed, and it's not, and then it kicks it, and then it integrates back into DocuSign to kick off for a signature. So the deficiency is that there's no signature on it. But I think you're talking about something a little more. That was cute.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And actually, we have
guys, this has been super insightful. The questions have been great. I feel like, Johnny, can you put some meat on the bones for me? Like, just like I'm seeing like the how to build the workout up. I'm seeing the use cases from Jeff. Can you show us what it looks like once you complete it? Maybe we can look at something around the risk assessment or an NDA or something, a compliance workflow.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at an example of an NDA application. And I also want to address the deficiency question. We actually have a client who, and it was quite a really complex deployment, but essentially they were using Neota to assess all the incoming trades. There were millions every day, to identify the ones that are of most high risk according to their risk assessment models. So this is exactly a use case where they are taking a look at massive amounts of data, and then identifying those deficiencies and those particular data points where further investigation is needed. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We can go through an example quickly of what it looks like using an application built on Neota. Let's see. Are you able to see the?
You can see a map.
We can see it, buddy.
Great. So this is the Neota workbench, and I will show you our external NDA application. This is an application that first sends a request for an NDA, and then the first party can make some edits to some of the clauses, and then it's integrated with a DocuSign so that both parties can sign, and it generates an executed document at the end. So much like the kind of expertise types of document automation, it first asks a series of questions about the requesting party and email address here, so that we will get this request. And this information that can actually, like we mentioned before, be integrated with database systems or CRM tools, so that the information can be auto-populated based on, say, the person's name. So some information about the counterparty.
So it's like this is a wizard, Johnny, correct? Like walk you through step by step of every process.
Exactly. Could you repeat that question?
This is like a wizard, like just walk you through step by step of every.
Yes. So essentially, the user is someone who wants to request an NDA and want to execute an NDA with a an external party, and this is someone who puts in that request so that the document goes first to the counterparty. They have their input and get it signed, and then it comes back to the original party, and they'll sign it, and it's executed. So here we have some options for selecting whether it's a one-way or a mutual NDA, and choosing the country that this NDA will be executed in, and you can also edit specific clauses. This is just one of the several inside this document, but you can certainly build in more options to customize different clauses in the NDA. So then, based on the edits we made, it generates a preview. The edit that we made earlier appears in clause 6, this updated clause here. And we can review it and go back if there are any changes we want to make. We'll go ahead and accept. And then the next step is to generate an email to the counterparty, and we can tailor the email as well. It's already pre-populated with the person's name, but we can add to it. And so this generates an email to the counterparty. And this should... So we get an email notification that request has come through.
Accept.
We'll actually click it open and confirm that the details input is correct. So we'll say that everything looks great.
Perfect.
And then this brings us, so that now that we've accepted this version document, this brings us to our DocuSign integration. We can go ahead and sign it. And once we sign, then the documents or the app sends a notification, another email to the originating party. And we should also be getting that email here. So asking the originator party to sign.
Yep.
And so you get the idea. Essentially, this will finish the process, and we'll have a executed contract for NPA.
Yeah. Very simple but effective and powerful process. I just want to change gears because, in the interest of time, I have a question I wanted to ask from the start about no code. Like, so you know, what software engineers share code to create things. Can you share like workflows? Like, if Jeff creates a workflow, I'm building out a new legal operations function. Am I allowed like to, you know, get Jeff's best practices from a workflow database and implement them? Have you got anything like that in place?
Do you mean across clients or across different teams?
Jeff builds his workflow out. It's a simple streamline, and I think like, wow, this is awesome what Jeff's done. Do I have access to the database to pull this information in and build my own out and tweak it as needed?
Not between clients. Neota has several templates, kind of pre-built applications and workflows that you can use to customize and base off of. But clients do not have access to each other's applications. We do have an online community where clients as well as Neota team members are interacting and sharing best practices and posing questions to one another and helping each other kind of troubleshoot and work through design issues, for example. But certainly within a client, different teams can use templates and make different versions or slightly modified versions of similar applications, but the applications are not shared among the clients, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I was just a moonshot. I was hoping there were, but I didn't think there would be. It looks like we're at almost the top of the hour. Is there any final questions for our two amazing presenters? Looks like two are coming in now. Jeff, I'm going to give you the last word. Any questions?
Do I have any questions? No, Colin, I don't have any questions.
Any questions for me?
No, I don't. Hey, thanks so much. I had a great time for being here, Colin. Thank you, Johnny. Great stuff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Attendees, I appreciate your time. And if you have any follow up, I will follow up with the recording and just get Neoda's blessing for the slide deck as well. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.